Welcome to the Mad Ron podcast. Where did it all go wrong with me, Mad Ron? I'm currently locked up. I only get one phone call a week. I've decided to use it to recruit for my gang. Why? Well, I need people working for me on the outside while I'm banged up. Obviously, such a blatant approach would be frowned upon by the authorities, so I've disguised it all up as a podcast. I've been asking myself a few questions, like where are we going to get our next generation of criminals from? I think we need to turn to our comedy community. Comedians are used to working alone at night and quite often enter a room through a curtain. So I've got a few candidates lined up. Let's see if they've got any potential, and who knows, if it goes well, they could be sharing a cell with me. Today's guest is Doug Carter. Described as West Midlands Tom Davis, Doug is an adaptable storytelling and observational comedian who started doing comedy online and now has 140,000 online followers, 40 million views and several viral videos too. He's won several awards, some of them have even been for comedy. For example, Midlands Comedy Awards Best Newcomer and Rising Star, Knott's Comedy Review Best Newcomer and Comedy Hotspot's Search for a Star. So welcome, Doug. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Ron.
So if you were a fruit, which one would you be and why?
Probably a peach.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I've got a lovely bum.
Right. You're known as the Annika Rice of the Midlands comedy circuit, aren't you?
What is that?
Because she won Rear of the Year.
I didn't know that, but yeah, I'll take that.
So, right, let's get to know you a little bit. But, Doug, so you recently did a festival where you had to do 2 20-minute sets for kids. And as you claim, you found that you've got 30 minutes of child-friendly material. What happened with the last 10 minutes? Did you start swearing at them?
It was a crossover of material. I did 10 minutes of the earlier set. In the second one, I didn't go all Ben Briggs on him and release the Kraken like what he did. He had no clean material at all and tried to do 20 minutes of clean material and then just talked about shooting them all with crossbows and stuff, which was quite amusing. Yeah.
That was Ben Briggs, was it?
Yeah, Ben Briggs. Yeah.
So how did he get into a field full of kids?
They booked him without realising that the festival was, well, our bit of the festival was in the kids' field. So when he turned up there, they realised that it was kind of the wrong booking, but it was too late by then. So I just got to watch it all unfold. And although the promoter found it not very funny, I thought it was bloody hilarious.
So you're a successful promoter running and emceeing Doug's Comedy Nights. What's your best memory from the nights that you've run?
I don't think there's a specific one. It's mainly just knowing. I just like seeing that many people laughing off the back of something I've created. You know, I wanted to be an act, mate. I didn't want to be a promoter, and I fell into it. And then seeing that you've made that, not just like standing up there and making people laugh, but you've picked the right acts to make a whole audience laugh throughout. It's something I never thought I'd be able to do. It's special, mate. It's special.
I suppose it's about knowing your audience and picking the right acts for that audience.
Yeah. I've been on a few nights where, a promoter knows their audience, don't they? But getting that on every first night, you sort of pick the acts that you think are the right acts for the night, but nobody knows until you actually start the night. So I've kind of got go-to guys that I'll put on each night that for opening nights, and then after that, it is kind of a chance. But you see what they're laughing at, you see what they're not laughing at, and you can kind of pick from that. We never get it 100% right. You know, sometimes we will pick an act that they don't like, but 99% of the time we get it right. And it's rewarding when you get it right.
So, without naming names, tell us about a disaster then.
put me on the spot here. And yeah, I've only really had one act, and I'm not going to say too much. I've had one act that's gone on and has not done. I thought they'd have been all right in this room. They weren't all right. People weren't that keen on them. And I don't want to shoot them down because I know they're a good act, but um, they were the acts that the audience spoke about the most. And the other two acts that were on were fantastic, and they got overlooked because people were saying that act was rubbish. I was like, I've seen this act do well a few times, but this night they just didn't go for them. But it happens. I'm sure occasionally it will have happened with every act, won't it? At some point.
So you started comedy online.
Yeah.
So tell us about that and how you got into the live circuit after you did the stuff online.
Well, a mate of mine had said to me, because I did one open mic night at a musical open mic night years ago. That I got a friend to get me. I've been writing for 10 years up to this point. My missus said to me, "Are you ever actually gonna go for it?" And I thought I need to. So my mate was a musician. He knew about the scene and stuff like open mic scenes and that. So I said to him, I says, "Look, I'm going to go for it." Did this one open mic, and it was a music open mic night. They weren't there for comedy. I died really bad, forgot my material and everything. And then when I left there, a friend of mine had turned around to me and said, "Look, are you going to give it another go?" I went, "I don't know." And he said, "Why don't you start online?" I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, do like comedy videos online. If people don't like it, then you can just delete them." So I started doing that. I set myself like a target, 5,000 followers in a year. Thought if I hit that, people like me, I'll give comedy a go again. And I hit 20,000 in a year, had a video up to 1.5 million views. Most of my videos were getting good thousands of views and stuff. And then I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go now. So a few of the videos that I made, I turned them into bits I thought would work on stage. And then I found a club, the Holly Bush in Craigley Heath. I don't know if you've heard of that place, but it's like a lot of like Joe Lycett has played there. You know, it was the beating heart of the black country comedy scene. I went there, found that place, went and watched for a while, and then booked in on 2018. Did my first set, and it just sort of like snowballed from there, really.
So what year was that again?
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
And then like since then you've gone from strength to strength really, and now you're doing like closings, 20-minute sets on pro bills, opening, middles, the odd closing bit, I suppose.
Yeah, it's mainly like, well, I've started off on the middles and that progressed with some promoters to the openers. Smaller clubs, I've done some closing for like smaller promoters and stuff like that. And now I've started emceeing a lot as well. And I'm just enjoying it. I want to try and be an all rounder and be able to do every spot on a bill, because then you've got more chance of getting more work, haven't you?
You have, yeah. Oh, that's nice. So, right, I want to get into your background and understand a bit about the years that made you the person you are today. So, what's the first time you remember doing something naughty?
Well, the first thing I remember doing naughty was I was about 4 years old, and I nicked a pound note out of my mum's purse, and I can remember running over the field with it, like waving this pound note, and a bigger kid took it off me and ran off with it.
Right. And so, what year was that then, Doug?
But when I was 4,
Yeah.
you'll have to do the maths, Ron. I weren't brilliant with maths, but I'm 47 now. So what were you talking?
That's 43 years ago, so that's 1981.
Mate, I've got my age wrong. I'm 49.
That's 1979 then.
There you go. Yeah, back in the 70s.
Yeah, well, best time to be born, isn't it, really?
Well, yeah.
So 1979, a pound was quite a lot of money. You could probably just about buy a house with that money, couldn't you? So what did that kid do with the money?
I don't know. He just ran off with it, and then I got myself in trouble by going to my mum and telling her that I'd had a pound nicked. And then she asked where the pound had come from. And I didn't know about how to blag then. So I told her it was out of her purse.
So you got into trouble for it, did you?
Oh yeah, she gave me a right slap.
Gave you a right slapping, did she?
Back in the day, you were allowed to do
You were
that.
allowed.
Yeah.
It was allowed, wasn't it? Never did you any harm.
Wow, you say that. I say, wow, it never did me any harm, really, because, yeah, I turned into a petty criminal, but I never murdered anyone. If she didn't hit me, then there's a chance I could have.
Well, yeah. Apparently, you had 100 IQ of 180 back then, but then like a few beatings later,
Yeah.
that's dropped a bit.
She was known as Slugger Carter, mate. She was a tough woman.
Yeah. And so, what's the biggest lie you've ever told then?
Right, the biggest lie. I did this years ago, right? Can I go into all my criminality stuff now, seeing as I'm here talking to one of the masters of the craft?
Well, you can. Let's go for it.
All right. Well, I turned a house into a whiz factory. Do you know what whiz is, Ron?
It's when you go to the toilet, isn't it?
Well, that's one name for it, yeah. But it was another worse word for. But before I go into this, can I just say that years ago I was a party enhancement specialist.
Right. So, what's that then?
A party enhancement specialist is someone that if people were going out to a party, they'd come and see me beforehand to give them tablets or powder that would.
I know what you mean, because Angela makes me go for a dance every now and again, and I have to have an aspirin to stop my knee playing up.
Yeah, these are a bit stronger than aspirins,
Right.
and you couldn't really get them over the counter.
Right. Okay. So, you're a chemist, really?
A sort of chemist, yeah. A chemist that tried stuff before. You know, I had a dedicated team of samplers that used to sample stuff, and then when people came to me to buy their party enhancement products, we'd be able to tell them exactly how they worked. So, like, because you've got, what are they called? Drug dealers. That's it. Yeah, drug dealers that just sold drugs to make money. Whereas I, being a party enhancement specialist, like to enhance people's party experience the best way possible by giving them the right thing for the night, and that's what I did. I had a whiz was it's known as speed as well, and I turned someone's house into like a factory this once, where I had someone doing the wraps, then putting them on the scales, and then we fill them, and then it go down the line to the point where it was put in packets and then sent out. But I didn't know at the time that I was being watched in a factory opposite, like a full scale operation, and they caught me going into the town with a load of stuff in me pants. So I had from there to the police station to make a lie up of why I've got this stuff in my pants, and I made a great lie up that I basically made myself out to be the middleman. Like they asked me why I was going into town with this stuff. I says, well, I helped. A guy needed help wrapping this stuff up, so I said I'd help him for a free wrap. And they went, "Who was the guy?" I says, "Can't tell you that. He'll do me in." It was me. And then when I got to town, well, they then said, "So how have you come about like taking this stuff into town?" I said, "Well, I said to him when he said he needed it to go to someone in town, I said I'd help you do that, but it'll cost you another wrap." And he said, "Who were you dropping it off to?" I said, "I can't tell you that. He'll do me in." And it was me. It was all me. None of it. It was all fabricated. So yeah, But that was when I got my first ever like proper court case and stuff like that. And actually in court then, that was when my mum met my missus' mum for the first time, which was quite an experience.
So, what do you reckon then is the naughtiest thing you've ever done?
Okay, so the naughtiest thing I ever did, I had a gangster, a bit like yourself, Ron, come up to me because I was doing quite well selling bits and bobs years ago, and I got headhunted. You know, like our businessmen get headhunted and stuff. I got headhunted in the party enhancement scene, and this guy started offering me a lot of stuff, and I took 2 grand's worth of stuff off him to sell, and I took it all. When I took it all, he wanted to know where it had gone. So I thought, what do I do? So I ran away, moved to another city, moved in with some naughty boys that were actually like they were robbers. They were like motorbike thieves, and they'd rob factories and stuff. And because I was living with them, I became their driver. And after about 6 months, 8 months, my missus said to me, she went, "You're going to end up dead or in jail if you stick with these guys." And I thought, what do I do? So I had to kind of go with my tail between my legs back to the guy. I went and seen him where I knew there was a load of cameras and I knew he'd be. Sort of owned up to my mistake, and he said, "Well, we'll set up a payment plan." So he made a payment plan for me to pay him back. Paid him back over 6 to 8 months. I was robbing Peter to pay Paul, got him paid off, and on the last payment, he said, "Come and drop it to my house." And I thought, right, this is where shit hits the fan. Got to his house. He opened the door. He said, "Come into the kitchen." And I thought, right, this is where it all happens now. So I went into the kitchen ready to get a kicking off him and his mates. And he went, "Do you want a cup of tea?" And I went, "Really?" He went, "Yeah, why? What do you think was going to happen?" So I thought you were going to do me in. And he went, "No, mate, I just wanted my money back." And give him his money back. Had a cup of tea, had a little chinwag. And then I left. Probably my luckiest escape ever. But yeah, it was scary, Ron.
Well, to be honest with you, you sound like you've done actual naughty stuff. Usually we have people on saying they've nicked a 12 from a newsagent's. But,
No, I was a naughty boy years ago. I did a lot of things I kind of regret now.
Have you ever blamed anyone else for something naughty that you've done?
Yeah. Not in a grassing fashion. I'd never grass. That's they are the criminals in the world I was in back in the day. But I used to take 100 pills to raves years ago, and my plan was they cost me 600 quid for 100. If I sold 60, that covered the money for the other 40, and then me and my mates would just eat them. But I had runners for me at the festival and at the raves and stuff, and I'd give them 5, they'd sell 5, they'd come back with the money. I'd give them another 5, they'd sell 5, and then I'd give them 1 for free. And this one time, this guy, I'll call him Oxford Steve. That's not his name, but we'll protect his identity. He was my seller at a rave called Helter Skelter years ago. I'd give him 5, he went off and sold it. Give him the second 5. And I had in my hand 1 pill left. And I said, "Do you want this now?" And he went, No, give it me when I come back. And then he went off. The minute he went off, bang, I'm up the wall by this security guard, and he's got my arm. He's got me on by the neck, and he's like, "Doing something dodgy, are you?" I was like, "No." And he opened my hand. He went, "What's that?" And as he opened my hand, there's the pill, and I've got like a split second to think of what to say. So I just went, he's took it out of my hand. Now, I had 70 pills in my pockets and a lot of money. I was banged to rights here. I was about to get done in by the security and arrested, and I had to think on my feet. And I just went, "Oh, come on, mate. I've just given my last tenner to that guy for that." And he went, "You just give a tenner to that geezer?" I went, "Yeah." He put the pill back in my hand, and he went, "Now, fuck off and don't let me see you take it." So I've walked off, shaking. Turned around to my mates and my missus who I was with. I was like, "Look, go and find Oxford Steve. Tell him now, take his hat off." Because as the security ran off, he went, "Go in a blue jacket, red top. No, blue hat, red top." And I was like, "Go and tell him, get his hat off, get his top off." And then he come over to me later, like looking totally different. He said, "What's happened?" And I told him what had happened and that. So that was the closest I come to blaming someone. But I knew he was long gone. They weren't finding him, But you've got to think on your feet in them moments, because that, if I'd have got caught with what I had on me, that would have been like 3 to 5 back in the day easily.
And all good skills, thinking on your feet for when you're doing your MCing. So that's great. But you just snitch on the authorities, then, do you?
I don't snitch, mate. It's not in my vocabulary to snitch. I wouldn't. No. Snitching ain't. Snitches get stitches, Ron. You know that.
Right. So, we've now got to take a short break to hear from some of our sponsors. We'll be right back after this. Are you fed up with having to decide between cleaning your toilet or having a quick pint? Now you can do both with Toilet Duck Lager. Welcome back to Where Did It All Go Wrong with me, Mad Ron. If you're just joining us, I'm currently banged up in HMP Nettlebed and using my one weekly phone call to recruit comedians to help me out on the outside. And I'm packaging it up as a podcast to get away with it. If you've just joined us, I'm interviewing Doug Carter. Now he's showing a lot of promise here. Let's move on to the next question. So you're invited onto pro celebrity robbery as a pro criminal. Who would be your ideal celebrity accomplice?
So it's about robbery then, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a choice between two. And
Happy for you to tell us both of them.
Okay. The first one isn't a criminal, but I think he'd be good in the criminal life. It's Peter Crouch. Mainly because he's that much of a lanky beanpole. He could spin cameras with just reaching up, and he'd just be able to spin a camera. And I think he'd be able to get his arm through and be able to open doors quite easy. And to get through the lasers, he'd be pretty good with the robot dance to be able to get through the lasers.
So what exactly are you trying to rob here then? Because every job I've done, there's never been a laser.
Well, it depends. If you're doing a bank job or something, he'd be able to walk in straight away, turn the cameras. But then if you were doing like a night job where there's no one there and they set the lasers up to catch people, that's where he'd be able to get away with getting under them with his robot dance. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I've heard that basically if Peter Crouch goes out to do a robbery and he gets an opportunity to nick something, he needs Jermaine Defoe there to finish off his chances for him.
Probably, yeah. So I'll have him as well then. It just means that we've got to split the money between another person, but I suppose we could pop him off.
Who's your other one then?
Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
Yeah, you know you know who he is, don't you?
No.
He's the Mexican guy in loads of films with the tosh, got the big tattoo on his chest. Like his face looks all rough and that, but he was, before he got into movies, he was an armed robber.
The Sky Kid's uncle.
Say again, Ron?
The Sky Kid's uncle.
I can't think at the minute what films he's been in, but he's been in a hell of a lot of films. You'd know who he was the minute you seen him, mate.
It was a shit film, wasn't it, Sky Kids? Or was it Spy Kids?
Spy Kids. I've heard of that, but I ain't seen it. Trust you to have seen it, though.
Well, watch any old shit in here, I tell you. So, and so what would he bring to the proceedings then? Okay, he's got a bit of previous, but...
Machine guns, hopefully.
Machine guns.
Yeah.
Right.
And he looks mean.
That's a good trait, actually. But, really, if you're just going to do a robbery, you want to get in there, take something, not really be known for it. Just sneak in, sneak out, take what you need, and not machine gun everything. So I think probably Peter Crouch would be your best option in that.
More than likely. Well, to be honest, even though Danny Trejo was an armed robber, I don't think he'd have got into films if he'd have killed anyone. So maybe his scary face was enough to ward him off.
But isn't he like 90 or something, 80, 90 now?
Good point. Let's go with Peter Crouch.
Peter Crouch, yeah. Okay, I think it's a sensible suggestion, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I've always fantasised about going back in time and nicking one of Alexander Graham Bell's telephones. Not the one he uses, the one that he rings up from his own. And then when he says, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you," I'd say, "Sorry, mate, wrong number." Put the phone down. So what's the most creative excuse you've ever come up with?
Right, the first time I ever got in trouble was in a nightclub, and I had all these like wraps that were individually wrapped to sell in the club. But as I got near the club, I knew that like we got searched going in, and there was a girl with me. So I went, "I carry these in for me," and she thought it was like a packet of fags. So I've gone in, got searched, gone up the stairs. But as I've gone up the stairs, security come up to me, and they said, "Your friend's been caught at the door with something." And I was like, "Okay." So I went down to her, got in between her and the security guard, and said, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "Leg it." I went, "Go on then." Bosh. So she legged it. Then I legged it and got away for about 2 weeks. And then drug squad turned up at her door saying that she was going to jail for a long time. So I basically took, well, it wasn't her fault, like it was mine anyway. So I took the blame, but I had a chance to get to the police station and make up a story for why I had this stuff on me. So I made a story up saying that I was an addict. I bought half ounce every couple of weeks of this fast powder of speed, but I couldn't get any. So someone had said that in Nuneaton there was a guy that had some, but he was already out on the piss. So I went and met him in this club, and he gave me this stuff. So I checked all the wraps like this to make sure it looked about the right amount. That gave me an excuse for having my fingerprints on everything. And I said, it looked like it was about 14 grams, because I don't know if you know this, Ron. An ounce is 28 grams, half ounce, 14 grams. I said, it looked like it was about 14 grams. And this copper said, well, it was actually 16.2 grams. I was like, sad, I'll buy off him again. And yeah, I ended up getting a caution for that. And that was my first ever criminal conviction. And I walked away thinking that I was very clever and can make up stories on the spot. But the police realised after that I was, I'd never been done for anything. I weren't on their radar. But after that, I was on their radar. And that's when, the story I told you earlier about them doing a proper watch on me from the factory opposite. That's when they did that, and they got me, and it all went downhill from there, really. But yeah, I think that was about the most creative I got.
Right. You've obviously done quite a bit. You've got a bit of history there. Would you be worried about the police knowing who you are if you kicked off again and you started up again?
I think there's no way in this world I could get into that life again. They hated me. They came for me many times. I've had my door kicked in four times. I've had other houses busted with my stuff. There's no way I could get away with anything like that now. That's why I changed my life around. I actually changed my life around because I bought an house and I had kids and stuff, and I didn't want to be that person anymore. And I didn't think I'd ever talk about anything like this ever. I thought it was just a thing of the past. And then I thought, I'm getting into comedy now. I think I can find humour in some of this, and I have. So yeah, they have their own, I don't know if you know this, Ron, but they had their own name for me back in the day. And I only found this out a little while ago. They called me Druggy Carter, which, I didn't know this, but that was their name that they had for me for years.
So you got some other projects on the go now. You started to write a book. Do you want to tell us about that? What's going on with that?
Yeah, the book is, like I've just said there, I've had my door kicked in a few times. I've had some lucky escapes at raves where I've been caught with things, and it was my quick wit that got me out of it. So yeah, I was calling the book 9 Lives, but then when I've added everything up, it came to more than 9. And I ended up changing the name of it to Small Time. I wrote the first chapter, and after the first chapter, I wondered if people would be interested in it. So I thought I'll put a couple of these stories out online to see if anyone's interested. Put a few stories out online, ended up with 15,000 new followers, over 1 million views on them, which has gave me the push I needed really to carry on. And I'm now up to chapter 5. So yeah, hopefully people buy the book. Buy the book, you buggers.
Where can you get it from? Is it
Nowhere yet, because I haven't finished writing it. But once it's finished being written, I'll let people know.
Cool. So what we suggest then, that you follow you at Dogs, Rants and Laughs, is it?
Doug's Rants and Laughs on TikTok. Random Waffle Bollocks on Facebook. Waffle Bollocks is one word. BOLLOX is how you spell bollocks. And Doug Carter Comedy on Instagram. So, yeah, just over on them.
So anything else you want to tell us about? Where can you find about that Doug's Comedy Nights? And
I've got a Facebook page called Doug's Comedy Nights. If you want to check out that and see where I'm gigging locally, you can follow me on my normal Doug Carter page. My profile picture, I'm going like that, and that's where I post all the gigs I'm on throughout the country. And it'd be lovely to see some people there. I'm starting to get bums on seats now off my social media following. So, yeah, the more the merrier.
Right, well, we're coming towards the end now, but I've been banged up for a while now, and I don't get many chances to hear what's going on the outside world. But back in June, I heard that the mayor of Paris was supposed to swim in the River Seine to prove that it was clean enough for Olympic athletes. So as a protest against the cost of cleaning up the river, the French have launched I Shit in the Seine Day on... I Shit in the Seine on 23rd of June Day. So what's your take on that story?
I love it. I love it. There is another story I heard. I don't know if you have heard the one about them testing the fish that were in the sea. Did you hear this one?
No.
Seeing as we're talking about water. They did a test on all the fish in the ocean. Well, not every fish, because that would have took ages. But each different species of fish, they did tests on them, and it's came back that every single species of fish in the sea has traces of cocaine in them. Did you know this?
No, I didn't. And what does that mean?
It just means that I think either all the coke that's been dumped before it's had a chance to get here, the fish are eating it. And, it makes sense, really, because I've been to the chip shop 4 times this week. So, it's definitely Moorish.
So, would you have a shit in a river? Or do a bump in the sea?
Yeah, I'd shit in a river. I've shit in a field before when I've had to. When you need to go, you need to go. If there ain't a toilet, shit where you need to go. Obviously not in the middle of a path, Ron.
No.
Be selective, but if people are doing that, I'll fully support it.
Mm. So, right, so what's the one bit of advice you'd give me to keep me on the straight and narrow once I get out of here?
I think I've heard some of your stories, Ron. You're a career criminal, but I think you're a funny guy as well. I think you should do a transition from being a criminal to being a criminal comedian. And I think that is your path in life.
So thanks very much, Doug Carter. This has been a very interesting chat. I was going to say that I'd get back to you if you'd made it into my gang and I'd send you a sign. But to be honest with you, I don't think you're up to it, mate. Well, you're up to it, but the problem is I don't think you're keen. I don't think you want to do it. I don't think your heart's in it. So, yeah, it's been an interesting chat, but thanks very much. I'll have to say no.
Thanks.
They meet under the dim glow of a Victorian street light. He sniffs, she pants. He coughs, she drops a stick. Fox Shit, perfume for dogs, from kennel number 5.